Has your French bread ever turned out dense or had inconsistent results? Today, we're making a French bread that's crusty, delicious, and way cheaper than what you'll get at the store. It's great for feeding your family healthy and additive-free bread. I'm Abigail Thomas from Homesteading Family. Let's get baking. French bread is a homestead staple because of its big flavors, simple ingredients, and it's so versatile. And it can be really frustrating with trial and error because you have different recipes, you can have dense loaves, and this recipe, it brings confidence, it gives you consistent results, and it makes for the perfect fluffy French bread. It is delicious. Stick around for that crusty secret tip and hit the subscribe button so you never miss a homestead tutorial. So today we're making 4 loaves of French bread, and for 4 loaves of French bread, these are the ingredients you're going to need. You're going to want 4 cups of warm water, about 110 degrees is like perfect, 2 tablespoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of active dry yeast, 1/3 of a cup of olive oil, and 3 tablespoons of sugar or honey. I've got honey right here, but you can do whatever. For the flour, we're not going to do exact amounts because we're going to be reading the dough to know when it's done, but I've got about 6 cups of white flour and 6 cups of whole wheat flour here measured out just so I know I have enough. You could do whole white flour or whole wheat flour if you wanted to. The first step to making the bread dough is we are going to add everything but the flour into our mixer here. So here we go, we're going to start with the water. And the salt. And the olive oil. Honey. And honey can be a little sticky coming out, so I'm just going to use a spatula to get that out of there. And our yeast. I'm going to mix this just for like 5 seconds to get everything mixed in, and then we're gonna let it sit for about 5 minutes to let everything mix together and for the yeast to do its work. All right, there we go. Now you're just gonna let this sit for about 5 minutes. All right, so this has sat for about 5 minutes for the yeast to activate. You will know the yeast is activated when it gets kind of like foamy, and you can see it looks a lot different than when you first put it in. If it hasn't done that, then you know your yeast is probably dead. So for the flour, we have our half of white, half of wheat flour, and I'm going to add in about 5 cups of white flour right now and mix it up because I know 5 cups is not going to be too much, and that's just what we're going to start with. Mix it up, and then I will talk about how to read the dough and how to know when to stop adding flour to make the full dough. All right, here we go. 5 cups of white flour. Okay, there we go. 5 cups of white flour, and now I'm just going to mix that up until it has been fully combined. So now that we have that mixed in, I'm going to be using the rest of the flour is going to be our hard white wheat flour. We're going to add flour about 1/2 cup to a cup at a time. The smaller the better, just so you can keep track of it. So probably about 1/2 cup. We're going to add it in, let it mix all the way in, and we're going to be reading the dough to know when we know if it's enough flour. And how you do that is you want to keep on adding little bits of flour at a time until you see that the dough is forming and it's cleaning off the sides of the mixing bowls. That's when you know to stop adding flour and to watch it. And once the sides of the bowl is clean, then you know you have enough flour. Okay, So here we go. I'm just going to turn this on and start adding in flour. Okay, so I was adding in the flour and the sides of the mixing bowl are just about clean now, so you can see that that is enough flour. That's all we need. Now we just need to knead the dough. For kneading, we're just gonna turn it on for about probably 2 to 3 minutes. Let it knead for a minute, about 2 to 3 minutes. And then we're going to do what is called a window pane test to tell if it's been kneaded enough, which is where we're just going to pull out a little bit of dough and work it and stretch it. And you have to be able to stretch a little bit to where you can see the light coming through, to where the dough is reasonably thin enough to see light coming through without it breaking. And I will show you guys how to do that when we get there. But for now, I'm just going to turn it on and let it knead. Alright, so we've let that knead, and now I'm going to do the window pane test. So I've got a little bit of flour on my hands to keep the dough from sticking too badly. I'm just gonna pull out a little bit of dough, you don't need very much, and kind of work it for just a second or two. Get it into a nice little ball. And this is how you tell if your dough has been kneaded enough. Once I've got it into a nice ball, I'm just gonna kind of like stretch it. Start stretching a little bit from side to side. Start working it a little bit bigger. Just be real gentle with the dough. And you want to stretch it to where it's thin enough that you can see the light through it without it ripping. And if that happens, you know you've got it. So this is stretched nice and thin to where I can see the light through it great, and it's not ripping, so that means our dough has been kneaded enough. And there's the dough for the French bread. Okay, the dough is done kneading, and I have a bowl with oil in it. We're just going to put the dough in the bowl and let it sit in a warm place for about an hour or until it has doubled in size. Go. Okay, there we have it. I'm just going to cover that with a towel, and there you go. Let it sit for about an hour. So the bread dough has risen for an hour and it's doubled in size, and so it is ready to shape. But I wanted to add, if you are making this dough with a mixer like I used, then you'll need to let it rise for an hour until it's doubled before you can shape it. If you are making the bread by hand, you want to do that process twice. Let it rise for an hour till it's doubled in size, punch it down, then flip it over and let it rise for another hour before you shape it. So now that it's risen, we are ready to punch it down so we can get on to shaping it. There you go, just get it back in the bowl and just kind of punch it down. Alright, there we go. Now we are all ready to shape it, so I'm just going to get my pans here ready. And I have a little bit of cornmeal. I'm going to sprinkle this on the pan, and that keeps the loaves from sticking, so that when you pull them out of the oven, they come off nice and easily. Just get that all spread around on there. Okay, there you go. Now I've got some flour here. I'm just going to put that right on the cutting board to keep the dough from sticking while I shape it. All right, there we have it. Just dump the dough right on there. There you go, and I'm going to divide this into 4 pieces. 1 piece for each loaf. Doesn't have to be exact. And I'm just going to let these ones sit on the pan while I shape the other ones. All right. To shape the dough, I like to kind of do a kneading motion where I just kind of push it out, pull it back in, push it out away from me, pull it back in, and fold over the ends. I just do that a couple times till I start getting the right size, the right shape down. And then I just kind of like start gently using my hands and putting it into shape. You can make these as long as you want them to be for a French bread, but I like to go usually around 10 to 12 inches long. One loaf shaped. Put it right onto the pan, and I'm just going to get the rest of these shaped as well. So when I was younger and I was making this, I liked to divide each of the 4 sections into 3 strands of their own, and then I would just braid it. And that you can get really creative with what you do with French bread, and that just makes like really pretty braid loaf, or there's a couple other fun things you can do. But just a note, you can get really creative with it. Okay, so now that we have all 4 loaves shaped, just go ahead and cover them and let them rise for about 30 minutes before we bake them. So the loaves have been rising for half an hour and they're just about ready to bake. We're going to bake them in an oven that's been preheated to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and you want to cook them for about 20 to 25 minutes, or until when you tap them they sound hollow. Before you cook them though, you want to score each loaf about 3 times to help it expand, and I'll just show you what that looks like right here. There you go, you're just going to do that on each loaf. Just 3 nice slices. Okay, these are ready to go into the oven, but here's that special tip. To make your bread nice and crusty and to help it rise, we're going to put a shallow pan of water on the lowest rack of the oven so that when it steams, it comes up and it hits the bread and it helps it to rise and it makes that crust perfectly crunchy. So our French bread is cooked and ready to eat, and you guys, it looks delicious. My mom taught me how to make bread at home, but did you know she has a free video series to teach you how to make bread at home too? I'll leave the link in the description below, and go ahead and drop in the comments what you like to use French bread for. Bye!